You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in injury attorney Julie Throop, managing partner at Friedman Throop, PLLC in Reno, Nevada. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Benny?
Doing well, thanks. Thanks for coming on. It's nice to see you through the computer screen.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For sure. So Reno, Nevada sounds like a cool place. I've been to Vegas once, and it's quite the distance away. I pulled out the map today to just see like where it was, like right on the California line, sort of. So like, tell me like what your favorite thing about Reno is. I'm curious.
My favorite thing about Reno, well, we kind of have this underground saying that's keep Reno awkward. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
There's some really cool things about Reno. You know, I've grown up here. I was born here.
Yeah.
I'm fifth generation.
Right.
You kind of have to dig to find the good stuff. Although it has evolved tremendously over the last 10 years. It's booming.
Really?
Growing up here, it was casinos.
Yep.
And, you know, that they kind of boom and busted and now they're booming again. But Reno kind of was always trying to emulate Las Vegas and found out that it really just
wasn't it, right?
No, because we have all seasons. We've got snow, we've got the mountains, we're right by Lake Tahoe.
Right.
So my favorite thing about Reno is the outdoors and hiking.
The outdoors, okay.
And the desert and the beauty and the
lake. That's a great answer. So I do ask because you have been there 5 generations. Have you made any T-shirts that said "Keep Reno Awkward" or "Botany"?
No.
No, they must have them though. We'll have to get one.
Yeah.
Isn't there like a show Reno 911 or something like that? Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
That's something you've seen. But anyway, we can carry on.
People from Reno don't like it because it makes Reno seem like it's cheesy and it really isn't.
Okay.
But that's kind of a good example of keep Reno awkward.
Okay, very good, very good. So you said you're 5th generation, Northern Nevadan.
Nevadan, you got it right.
I got it. I nailed the A. So like, what was it like to grow up there? It is known also. I looked this up. I did some research on it, a little bit, cursory. The biggest little city in the world, right?
Yes. Yeah. Growing up here, I mean, gosh, I want to say there was maybe 150,000 people, and now the greater Reno area is like 500,000 people. So it's just changed so dramatically. I mean, as a kid, there wasn't a whole lot to do for kids, you know, go roller skating or go play out in the desert hills.
Right.
Go camp. I mean, we went camping a lot as a family and hiking and fishing. There's a Truckee River runs through downtown Reno. So a lot of outdoors stuff, just staying out of trouble.
Got it. Yeah, totally. So we featured you on Lawyer Stories today, lawyer_stories, our Instagram, Facebook. We put it up on LinkedIn, which we're trying to get going a little bit now. So I really enjoyed your story. It was definitely unique, different than one that we've heard in a while. So tell us, like, what inspired you to become a receptionist and a file clerk at a law office in 1998, Terry Friedman's office? Like, what made you want to go into that, really?
You know, I was a kid. I was 19 years old, full-time college student. I was working at Papa Murphy's Pizza at the time, and it just kind of fell into my lap. My close friend of mine at the time was leaving to go into the military, and he was working at the firm. And so I had met the people who worked here, and actually the paralegal and office manager at the time hired me, and she's now one of my best friends, and she's my office manager. I mean, she trained me as a kid.
Really? So she's been there for that's 1998.
She's been here for over 35 years, so we have
Yeah.
a lot of longevity, which makes for an amazing team.
That's incredible. So you just and then so during your path, 1998, where were you like with school? You said you were just almost graduated high school. You were
No,
like
I was
you were a
my
year out.
sophomore year at UNR, the university here in Reno.
Okay. So you were gonna choose medicine, right? Like you went back and took a couple classes. Tell us about what happened there.
I took 2 years of courses and actually got basically a second major in medicine, pre-medicine. So I thought, so my original major was journalism and marketing. And I just figured, I had a big passion for writing and investigative journalism. I've always been really into investigation and analysis. So
Okay.
that kind of led its way into the law. But I, at the time, was really into, the anatomy and physiology and chemistry. So I got back into that and thought maybe I'd go to medical school. And then I realized I'd be really old and working nonstop if I chose to be a physician.
Really? Okay.
So then I went back to the original goal in life, which was to go to law school and become a lawyer.
So like was that the reason you went to law school? Because you didn't want to be working 5,000 hours a week as a doctor? Or was there something that you sort of thought that hit you that said, I want to go to law school?
Well, I was always very close with my father, and he passed away in 2008. He was really sick. And Reno didn't have a law school, but we did have a medical school. So I think my closeness with my father was guiding my goals.
Okay.
And that shouldn't always be the case, I know, but for me, it was really important. And he, as well as my other family and friends and peers, encouraged me to do what's best for me, no matter what happens. And so ultimately I went away to law school.
Wow. Okay. How did you find your law school experience?
How did I like it?
How did you like it? Yeah, you were in California, right? Sacramento?
Yeah.
George School of Law? Right.
Yes. I loved it.
Really?
I wish I could stay in law school forever. I know it's
Wow,
weird.
really? That what you love might be a nightmare to many.
Yes. I have a warped mind, I guess, but it was an amazing experience. I got married in 2005 and then went away to law school that same year.
Yeah.
And my husband stayed in the Reno area. So he had a good job at the time and had to stay. And so I just worked my butt off during the week and studied, got all the studies done during the week. And then he came and saw me on the weekends so we could spend quality time together. And we made it happen for 3 years.
So like when he's with you, right, on the weekend, were you like, I should be studying a little more contracts. I need to like look over my torts outline. No, none of that, huh?
No,
Wow.
no.
See, a lot of people are able to treat it like a 9 to 5 and just do it, And I think actually you worked a few years before you went to law school, right?
Yeah, I worked for the same law firm from 98 until I went to law school in 2005. And then I worked on all my breaks for the same law firm.
Now, would you recommend that somebody who's thinking about law school, like take a job between undergrad and law school, or would you tell somebody to go right to it? What's your advice there?
Yeah, so nowadays they call them gap years.
Okay.
So right now I have a lady working for me who I just adore, and she's getting ready to go to law school, and she took 2 gap years, and she's super smart, and I'd love her to come back as a lawyer. I hope. We'll see where her path
Awesome.
takes her.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't do it any other way. Gap years help you mature. They help you make sure that you're really making the right decision, and you can experience other life experiences before jumping right into law school.
But I also, yes, so my view is that it helps you with time management, right? Because you're already in a job, so you sort of know the structure of a day, and maybe you sort of applied that to law school a little bit. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I think that it just gives you discipline holding down a
Yes.
job and working, and yep, I
Okay.
agree.
Yeah, that's great. So that's a good route that you took. And then you found your way back working with Mr. Friedman. So what would you like? Why personal injury?
Well, it's really honestly all I know, but
Okay.
I really wasn't drawn to criminal law
Okay.
or criminal cases. There's very intense, although one of my favorite cases I have has a huge criminal crossover component, but um there's something pretty amazing about personal injury. There's so many jokes and adverse opinions about personal injury attorneys, but what we do is truly great, especially for people who are really seriously hurt by someone's, horrible decisions or
Right.
negligence. And to help correct a little bit of that and find justice for them is huge.
So like what percentage would you say your cases go to court and what would you settle, would you say?
With COVID, it's changed everything drastically.
Right. Tell us about that.
I would say, before the pandemic, still the majority of cases settled. Especially if you work up a case really well and they put good money on it, it's really hard to take that gamble and say, no, let's go to trial and see if I can get more, if it's close enough. So I would say probably 85 to 90% of cases settled before the
Okay.
pandemic. And then now it's almost like 98%, maybe 99%.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, that's wild. But so like I just find your story intriguing too, because like in an age, a day and age where people kind of are frequently switching jobs, going to trying different things, doing, this and that. Like, tell us about your opportunity, your unique opportunity to grow with Mr. Friedman and his firm, and really starting out, answering phones and doing reception work. It seems like you have a close relationship, he's like a mentor. That's sort of a packed question. Like, first of all, tell us what that's like starting as like basically a kid and then growing into the successful attorney that you are today.
Yeah, I mean, he definitely has been a mentor and a father figure over the last few decades, basically. So,
Yeah.
I mean, um, I've watched him in so many trials, and before I even went to law school, I helped him in trial. I think he appreciated the insight I had and thought that I would make a really good attorney. And so he was probably one of the main driving forces for the reason why I went to law school. And it was just a natural progression and a good fit.
Yeah. And did you stay in touch with him like through law school and like your undergrad when you were done? Like, were you able to work for him on breaks and all that sort of stuff?
Yes, winter breaks and summer breaks, I just returned here to work. And really my office manager and paralegal was the main person that I had the closest contact with, because she ran the office, and Terry was obviously busy working cases, but we would definitely touch base probably on a monthly basis
Yep.
while I was in law school.
Okay, so like, what do you think is the importance of having a mentor in a legal career?
It's really important. There's pros and cons though. I would say,
Okay.
so Mr. Friedman, Terry Friedman, he is an amazing storyteller. Juries love him. He's got this like great raspy, almost older actor type voice that
Okay.
just is really easy to listen to. And he has his own style. He's laid back. He's a cowboy.
Nice.
And especially for young female trial attorneys, the worst thing you could do is try to emulate somebody else, and to try to copy their style or slogans that work for them, or whatever things they use in opening and closing argument.
Okay.
And so the first half of my career, I struggled because I was trying to do the things that he did that worked for him or other great attorneys
Interesting.
learn about. And it makes it awkward because you're not being yourself. And so
Okay.
I went to the trial lawyers college, Jerry Spence's trial lawyers college in Wyoming for a month. And that was really the first time I realized that I'd been doing it wrong. And
Really?
I still had great results, but it was such a relief to realize that I could just be myself
Right.
and tell the story the way I want to tell it, the way I can best tell my client's story. And it only got better from there. So it was wonderful to have him to help me along the way, but I kind of outgrew it and then kind of flourished on my own by digging deep and going to other, colleges and resources.
And you adopted your own style along the way. Like after you had maybe some experience, you felt like it was time, and you felt more, I don't want to say confident, but like you felt like you had grown your own style.
Yes.
And you could go with that. That's awesome. I think that's really says a lot, that you're able to tell us that. So super cool. So like what are your favorite cases that you've had?
So the one I mentioned earlier, it was an alleged homicide case here in the Reno area. And it was an older couple, and I represented the sister of the wife who was murdered. There was a criminal charges and a whole case going alongside. I was hired by the sister, who was the only heir to the dead woman. And basically it was her third marriage, I believe. And they married later in life, and she had a lot of money. She was a very successful businesswoman. They relocated from California to the northern Nevada area, and he basically made it look like she fell down the stairs.
Wow, that's like a movie. It's like a Lifetime movie, Julie.
Oh, it's Dateline, and I have like
Dateline.
a huge passion for Dateline and all those crime dramas.
Okay, all right.
You'd think I'd want to be a criminal law attorney, but no. So anyway, we were hired to pursue the wrongful death claim because in Nevada, they have a law that says if you are found either civilly or criminally liable for the death of someone, you can't benefit from their inheritance. You can't take inheritance. And so the criminal case kind of got bogged down with some issues. So it kind of put our civil case on hold. But we were successful in being able to freeze all the assets.
Wow.
So he didn't get to benefit from it at all. And then ultimately he went crazy and went into an insane asylum. And
really,
yeah, it was just one of those crazy cases you'd think you'd never see, but truly like a Dateline story. But I still have a very close relationship with my client.
okay.
And she was very happy with the outcome because she was just, her whole life was turned upside down by this,
Wow. Was this something that made headlines or anything, like the news?
Yes, it was all over local news. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. It's unbelievable. Did you like think about making the switch to criminal law or prosecution or anything?
No.
No.
That was the closest I got.
That was okay. Well, you got to dabble a little bit. That's pretty good, right?
Yeah. The PI, the private investigator who we work with sometimes, the DA was also using the same gentleman, and it was just interesting. We weren't able to see a lot of the evidence because the criminal trial was still pending, but the blood spatter was all at the base of the stairs and up the wall, and nothing on the way down the stairs. So it just, all the evidence that they had supported that it was homicide, that she was beaten to death at the bottom of the stairs.
Wow.
And in fact fall down the stairs. So, and it was a trip. We had to go out to the home after and look at all the personal property and make sure nothing had been squandered.
Right.
And she got to take what she wanted of her sister's belongings. Otherwise, had we never been involved, she probably would have never seen any of that. It would have all been gone. So
wow, that's amazing. So Your clients really appreciated the hard work that you did there.
Yeah.
That's great. So, so as a business owner, Julie, like what hurdles have been the hardest to overcome, would you say?
I think probably staff issues.
Okay.
The best advice I have for anybody is to find the right team. I think sometimes we get so busy, especially lawyers, it's hard for us to be office managers and be lawyers at the same time. So you have to really divide and conquer and have people you really trust. I think
Yeah.
sometimes you can get one toxic person in an office and it can just destroy everything.
Yeah.
So I've learned my lessons along the way. And right now I have an amazing team that I hope I never lose. So I think, you might think I'm too busy. This person's good enough for now.
Yep.
No, get rid of them and move
Really?
on.
So
Yeah.
like, what do you mean they're not good enough for now? Or, they might be, they're sort of good enough, but they're not good
They're
enough?
poisoning the well. They're poisoning the well. I mean, it's
They're
crazy.
poisoning the well.
Stuff.
Okay.
It's crazy the stuff that can go on in any office.
Right.
The power struggles, the failure to follow the chain of command.
What position is like hardest to fill at like a firm? Because you have a couple attorneys, right? And like I don't really know your staff side. So I think it's a smaller firm, right? But
smaller firm.
But like, what's the toughest, do you think, to, and you don't have to even answer that because I don't want to call anybody out in your staff, but.
No, and I have a perfect staff right now, but I would say the problems that we've had are legal assistants over the years.
Yeah.
Just don't like to take direction from the paralegals. So there becomes these power struggle dynamics. I don't personally ever have them, thankfully, but it's the staff, support staff that kind of fight amongst each other, or they'll backstab each other. And it just, you don't want any part of it. It's like, we are so swamped. How do you have time to even create this issue?
To be doing these things. It's like, come on, you should even be taking a lunch break. Like, don't even do this,
Yeah.
So, all right. So what's the best part of being now, you went from being you were the receptionist though, Julie. So you went from being the receptionist to from the file clerk. Now you're the managing partner of the firm.
Yes.
So like, what's like one of the best parts of it?
I mean, I think really working up a case, the investigation, the discovery, depositions, getting ready for trial, finding out all the good stuff, the hard fight, that is the best of it, is really doing your job and finding justice for your client.
That's awesome. And you're obviously very passionate about what you do. You can see it emanates through you as you talk about it. That's a great answer.
I love depositions. I think that's
right. So that's actually my next question. So one of your claims to fame, you're great at depositions, cross-examinations. So like, is that your favorite part of trial? If not, what is your favorite part of trial?
I think that my least favorite part of trial is the first 5 minutes. And then my favorite is the rest of it. I don't know.
That's not like trial. That's more like litigation, right? So that's sort of a weird question.
No, it's a good question because, for the longest time, I was just petrified of jury selection. And so I think that the first 5 minutes are still the hardest part for me, but probably for most attorneys, or anyone who performs, actors, whatever, it's that first 5 minutes of just getting in the groove. And then once you're in the groove, it's good. And then it feels natural and you can just play ball. But
right.
The first 5 minutes is always just getting your bearings. And it always feels awkward to me. I don't know why, but after that you get in the groove and I feel great and love being in the well. And I love direct examination and cross-examination.
Right. So tell me about, like, if you were to give somebody advice about direct and cross-examination, a couple tips, what would it be?
Well, I mean, I'm sure we all know the right tips. You never, on cross-examination, you never ask a question you don't know the answer to,
Okay.
unless the answer doesn't matter. So no matter how they answer, it still hurts them.
Okay.
And then I think with direct and cross-examination, you have to be furthering your goal, which is to tell your client's story. And so, you cross-examine in order to get those bits that you need for closing argument, cross to close. And it's basically just making these statements that tell your client's story, and it's just short statements, and then the witness is just saying yes, no, but meanwhile you're telling the whole story, and you're getting exactly what you need from that witness, that just translates right into closing
You
argument.
find yourself doing that with families and friends now? Like you're trying to tell their story, either like right or wrong? Is that?
Yes, or if they'll give a description and it's a little bit vague, and so then I ask and I give like a cross-examination question. You mean blah blah blah, correct, or whatever, and they're just like, oh God.
Isn't that like a leading question? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, so what makes Julie Throop a good storyteller?
I think probably the true passion and emotion that I have for my client and what he or she's been through and their family. I think that I invest the time and emotion into each case and really get to know my client and their family.
Important.
See where they live and eat. And I think it's really hard to tell someone else's story if you haven't at least tried to walk in their shoes a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think that's what makes me a good storyteller.
That's great. Great response. So we asked about advice for cross-examining. So like, do you have a least favorite part of trial?
Yeah, the first 5 minutes.
You said that. Okay. So that is definitely the least.
Just trying to, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but those strangers that are sitting in the jury box, you just worry about judgment, and it's all subconsciously going on in my mind. And as soon as those first few questions are answered and you get a conversation started with the jury and they're not just all quiet staring at you, then that feeling goes away. But it takes a few minutes.
Right. Does that lead back to the Socratic method at all in law school? Like they call on you and it's kind of like, you throw like a pen up in the air, or if it's like me, I spit a mint accidentally at the civil procedure professor. But then after you start talking, you kind of feel like in the groove a little bit, right?
Yes. And, really, if you put yourself in each juror's position as well, they probably feel the same way. That's why they train us. Don't ever just ask an open-ended question to the whole jury box, because they're not going to just volunteer. You rarely ever get jurors that want to volunteer information of why they're biased and don't want to be on the jury.
Yeah.
So it's the same way. We all share those same feelings. We're all going through this together. So for me in law school, I loved volunteering and answering questions.
Well, that's the way to do it.
I was one of those nerds, but
no, don't say that. That's the way to do it, though. I probably would have wanted to study with you.
Yeah.
Probably could have helped me out. So do you think you're going to mentor anybody like coming up, or what do you think, that's important, right? Like you're doing all this stuff. Like, do you think you'll take on any new associates eventually?
I hope so. I'm 43, so I still
Me
feel
too.
really young. Are you?
Yeah.
So I still feel really young, but I guess I'm
we're young. Julie, we're young.
We're young.
Yeah.
But I am starting
so young.
to mature in my career, and I hope that I'm hoping that the gal I mentioned earlier will come back and work here. It's a really good fit. We get along wonderfully, and she's really smart.
And she's a law student.
She's starting this fall. Yeah.
Okay, we'll get her a feature on Lawyer Stories when she starts her. We feature lawyers and law students, so
I saw that.
Hopefully she sees this, and we will get her up on the feed, and it's like a fun thing to do. So, one thing I was really curious about that you mentioned in your lawyer story was about your medical network that you have. You built this like medical network. So like tell us a little bit about that.
Well, Reno, the Reno community still is really small. And so and it's not that I personally built it. I should preface it with that, but it's really important to have relationships with the treating physicians for your injured clients, because in Reno, we struggled for so long with a lot of the treating physicians not wanting to even be involved with the litigation process at all. They didn't want their deposition taken. They didn't want to have to do a report to state that the injuries were caused by the incident. They were just not cooperative at all because they didn't want to waste their time. But they charge us an arm and a leg anyway, and they probably make a lot more testifying in a deposition than they would, through insurance, health insurance for a surgery. So
really, so they get like a huge hourly for that. I've heard. I don't really know what it is, but that's incredible.
They do. So I think as a group, the plaintiffs bar in Reno has really tried to, educate and reach out to the medical providers and just said, hey, this is how this system works. If you're subpoenaed, why would you want to hurt your patient and say the opposite when the evidence supports it? And a lot of times doctors don't understand the evidentiary threshold of more likely than not to a reasonable degree of medical probability, which is only 51% or more. They think it has to be, a certainty, and that's not the case. So a lot of it was an evolution over the years of just trying to break through the barricade and educate them a little bit. And so now the vast majority of physicians in Reno are on board with helping their patients.
Wow.
And so it took a lot of work, and not just by me, but by a lot of us, just trying to find justice for our injured clients. But yeah, I do have, over the years, I've formed professional relationships with a lot of medical and liability experts, like, biomechanical engineers. So basically, depending on whatever the case is, we've got the right setup for it.
Yeah, you strike me as a very, like, if I can give my opinion, like, you strike me as a very into what you do, like, reliable attorney. Like, you're going to go out there and get the job done, and do the best on behalf of your client that you can do. So that's amazing. I mean, just hearing you talk about this is incredible. What advice would you give someone who's on the edge and like unsure about practicing law, going into the practice of law?
Run. I'm just kidding. No,
And we'll stop it right there. That's the clip. We're gonna make a clip.
No, I'm teasing. No, I think I think our profession is so important. And I think that especially with personal injury, human rights, we just have to keep fighting and lobby and get out there. Even with medical malpractice, the laws have become so strict and so anti-injured patient that it's next to impossible to even bring a medical malpractice case. And people can be really seriously injured by medical negligence. And I get the balance between, healthcare costs and everything else, but in reality, that's not affected.
Are you doing mostly medical negligence?
No, that's maybe 5 or 10% of what
What's the majority?
Motor vehicle accidents and slip, trip, and falls.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Yeah.
So where do you see your firm in 5 to 10 years?
Growing and hopefully have an associate on board.
Okay. Is Mr. Friedman like, is he like of counsel or like, is he?
Yeah, he's of counsel, mostly
Okay.
retired, and
Yeah.
he's still working a couple cases.
That's amazing. Okay. Anything big coming up that we should know about? Any big cases?
I've got one going to trial end of June. It may get moved out 3 months, but I'm not sure. But it's a good one. It's a hard fight. We're like just
Really?
yeah, we're going at it right now. So
Wow. Okay.
yeah, we tried to settle it. It was a landscape company left a giant pile of rocks in a roadway overnight in a more rural area north of Reno, and put one short cone at the base of the rock. No advanced warning, no signage, nothing. And it completely blocked one whole lane of travel. And my client, it's a 35-mile-an-hour road. He's driving down the road, as he has thousands of times, headed to a UNR Wolfpack game.
Okay.
Just bam. No, didn't even respond, didn't see it, nothing, just hit this pile of rocks. It was 5 feet tall, just massive. And, he needs multiple surgeries.
Wow.
He's 70 years old.
How old is he? 70?
Yeah, just ruined his golden years.
And he was going the speed limit.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
How do you prove that? I mean, was there like a
OnStar? They have like
OnStar? Very good. There you
yeah,
go.
they have the onboard data. Smart cars these days.
Yeah, it's amazing. They help you out a lot, right?
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, that'll be interesting. That'll be I'll be looking for that one. I hope you tell me what the result of that is.
Yeah, the law requires, first of all, you can't leave. You can't do that. It's illegal. There's like 3 different laws, Washoe County, Reno, state law, that all say no stockpiling landscaping material in the roadway.
Wow. Okay.
And if you're gonna do that,
So is that like negligence per se or something like that? I don't even remember. Like, I mean, I do remember obviously like some of these like phrases, but is that what that is? I mean,
yes, yeah, violation of a law that's meant to protect that.
Yeah.
For safety purposes is negligence per se. So we've alleged
there you go.
negligence per se, and
All right. See, I could do this.
Damages too.
I could do that. Benny Gold could do this.
And punitive damages. So
that's you need the punitive damages. The guy's 70, going to just enjoy himself at a game. He's been to the place 100 times, millions of times.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to, give you what your opening statement should be. So, do you?
The mini focus group. Thanks.
Yeah, you're well. No, you know what? I've heard and I saw on social media that somebody actually put like a question out, and it was actually sort of reflective of what a jury would think, because they got so many responses that I think like it was helpful as to what a jury which way they'd go.
Yeah, I mean, the Washoe County, the local authorities that we deposed said, first of all, it's not allowed, and you should have applied for a permit.
Yeah. And
had you applied for a permit, we would have made you have a full-on traffic control plan with flaggers, signs, and lights.
Well, you got to find out. Don't you have to find out who the guy was who left all that rocks in the street? I mean, it could have been like a new anyway.
No, he's not. We're like ready for trial. We've done tons of depositions.
I can tell you're chomping at the bit, Julie. You can't wait to get to the court. That's why you want Julie Throop representing you in Nevada. Reno, Nevada. Is there anything else that we left out that you want to tell us, advice or anything to the Lawyer Stories community?
The only other thing that is really important to me is one other case I'd like to share briefly.
Of course.
I had just had a baby.
Okay.
It's 2013, and of course I'm breastfeeding, and I have a trial. My baby's only 2 months old.
Okay.
And Terry and I are doing the trial together, 50-50, and it's in Fallon, which is an hour away from Reno. And our client lost his whole home to a flood, and the insurance company refused to pay for it. And the family was out of a home for, I think by that time it was 3 years. They were living in a camper next to their home, trying to put in drywall and trying to fix it the best they could.
What a mess.
Basically, the insurance company used an exclusion against them that said that mold's not covered. Well, they outweighted the client, because the mold eventually, the water eventually turns to mold. So the whole house is infested with mold. And they're like, oh, see, there's mold, we're not covering it. And it was one of the worst cases I've ever seen of bad faith for me personally. And I was like, how am I going to go to trial with a new baby?
Mm.
I dug deep on that one, and I brought my mom and my baby, and Terry's in one hotel room, I'm in another with my mom and my baby, and then our office manager was there. We brought our computers and our printers, and the judge was amazing and gave me breaks when I needed them throughout the trial. The jury was aware of what my needs were, and we won, and we got punitive damages.
Wow.
And it was one of the hardest life experiences because there was so much going on. You can imagine the emotional and hormonal changes that a woman is going through postpartum. Yep. But it was one of the best success stories of my life. It was just like, you put everything on hold, but you make it all happen. And
it's incredible. I think we need to do like a second lawyer story, like in the feed, about this case in the narrative form, because I think that's incredible that you were so passionate and you did that. Like that's awesome.
Yeah, we can do it all. We really can.
Yeah, you can do it. You really are passionate about your clients and helping them and solving the injustices. And you know what? These insurance companies have so much money. It's unbelievable. And these compared, like when you do like that, the balance, these people are struggling. They're living like in a trailer on their property and trying to build drywall, and like for 3 years, you said?
Yeah.
And, but you're firm, and you're in there. You had a 2-month-old and you're in trial. That's incredible. Congratulations to you. Do you have any advice for like maybe a new mom, like in the workforce, or like, do you want to say, like, do you have any advice for like a new mother, like who works and needs to go out there and has kids? Or
it's really hard, and I don't want to pretend that I could impose myself on someone else's situation, but if you have the resources, use them. Obviously, it is hard to do it all. If surround yourself by people who can help you and support you if you can. Obviously, I had wonderful parents, and my mom would give up everything to help me, and she did. And then my office staff is amazing, so and obviously I couldn't do it without my husband either, but he had a job. So try to surround yourself by people who can help you, because you really need help if you're trying to be a professional and raise a family.
Would you have it any other way though?
No.
That's amazing. I love that. I definitely give women a lot of credit who do my wife's one of them, who have a full-time work, and they push hard, and they have kids, and so thanks for sharing that with us. That's a big piece of I think inspiration for a lot of people out there.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anything else regarding that you'd like to share? Any other piece of advice?
No, it was a really small town where the trial was, and I was pleasantly surprised at how accommodating and open-minded they were, and the judge was. So I think if you just communicate and you request, you make the requests for the accommodations, you'd be surprised at what they'll do to accommodate those needs, especially for a breastfeeding mom who's put on trial. And I think when I first started, I was scared that judges wouldn't even let you take a pee break. I just thought, you're for 10 hours the whole day, the judge is telling you exactly where to be and when to be. And it's not really that way. If you have a special need, they do accommodate it within reason. So
that's awesome. That's great. That's a great thing to tell us, especially new attorneys who think the system might be so rigid, but you just really have to speak up, right? It's all about speaking up and telling them your needs,
yes.
as long as it's reasonable.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. So I don't have any more questions for you. You're welcome to say whatever else you'd like. If not, it's been a pleasure to speak with you, Julie. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me, Benny.
Of course, and I hope we stay in touch and stay right there. And everybody out there, to the Lawyer Stories community, thanks for tuning in. Wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.